Welcome back.
Hello and welcome to It's Happening show, community grassroots media for the people by the people. I'm Jose Gloria.
And I'm Dylan Thompson. We are your hosts tonight.
We are your hosts indeed.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Woo.
It's Happening is a movement of the heart and of the mind. It's the energy of the universe that creates waves inside us and all around us, which allows us to activate, motivate, and elevate vibrationally and intellectually towards love, truth, justice, and wisdom. It's happening in every which way.
It's Happening is a culture of empowerment. It's people having the right to exist and participate as equals. It's a dream of what the world could be, but the future we want is only possible if we make it happen. So stand up, get informed, and fight back.
Pew, 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 pew.
Pew.
Fight back.
Ugh.
You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us. So we thank you because of you.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
We're
Made it again.
There. You are listening to It's Happening show, streaming live from Iron Lion Media.
Iron Lion Media. Ooh, need some water after that. Woo. Too much.
All right. Yeah, we're going to have a great show today. Later on, we're going to have Senate Council candidate, Thai Viet Phan. So that will be awesomeness.
Nice.
Yeah, back on the show again. Talk to her about her most recent race. So yeah, it's going to be a good show today. Good show. Everybody, let's have a good
that time again.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the news is really picking up on all fronts because of the election.
I know.
Definitely. And other events. I mean, it's a heavy one this week, man.
Indeed. Yeah. Heavy hitters. We come with them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and go to our quick stories. So there was a convention. An alt convention, right? Alt convention.
What is this? A movement to start a people's party? What are you talking about?
What are you?
Yeah, please. Okay, so apparently there's some movement that gathered together a lot of the people that you would put on your X-Men party for progressives. Among the supporters of the establishment of a new grassroots funded party, so much like how Bernie Sanders ran his own campaign, this party would be founded on the similar principle that it wouldn't take any corporate money. And so Cornel West is backing it, Nina Turner, Marianne Williamson, Mike Gravel, Danny Glover, Chris Hedges, Jimmy Dore, among many others. So yeah, I mean, maybe my dear co-host may disagree with me on this, but I say, it's your party. Cry if you want to, but like other people should make their own parties to cry about their issues. And yeah, I mean, it just seems so abundantly clear that there's only so much we can do through maybe on the federal level through the Democratic Party. There's some really strong guards in place to prevent Bernie from breaking through, and yeah, so we'll see. It would be nice to have a party that didn't take any corporate money.
It would be nice. It would be nice to have a party without corporate overlords. That's a Hamilton reference. Yeah. No, I saw parts of it. There was some very strong, speakers, and had local. I believe one Bernie delegate, Hanye Jodat, that was on there speaking, and like Cornel West and such.
A lot of Bernie people on there, though, too.
Yeah. So, there was people. Yeah, like you said, we're going to agree to disagree on this case. But I think the conversation is valid. I think we should definitely talk about what the future looks like, for folks, really trying to, bring issues to the forefront. One clear one being Medicare for all, when, an overwhelming amount of people, 80% something, Republicans and Democrats are supportive of expanded healthcare system. So as much as Trump wants to, so like the Democrats are trying to bring socialized government-run healthcare. and,
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's like, well, people want that. They love their, like, you talk to older folks, they love their Medi-Cal.
They like being healthy. What a shocker. But yeah, just last note on this. It's just like, didn't AMLO start a new party, like 4-6 years ago? And they took over the government in Mexico. So, it's not a perfect analogy, but they've done it in modern times.
Yeah. The difference is, and I've mentioned this before, is that in Mexico, there's like 10, and they all get to, to be on the debate stage when they have the debates. There's, not 10. I think there's like 6 or 7 political parties. And so then if a new party were to surge, in the case, the Morena party, they do have a chance because the people are able to see them in television and hear their talking points. And it basically was an offshoot of an existing party. So, again, if it were the case here where all parties, including the Green Party and others, were to have a moment on stage together to debate the ideas, that would have a better chance to really. Until that happens, then it's just going to be really difficult to get off the ground. But yeah, kudos to all the people that are, continuing the conversation about, what representative democracy looks like, especially when the parties are not taking up the causes that they so desperately want, So
big time.
Bigly. All right. Next quick story. Senate Council will be voting on the Housing Opportunity Ordinance again tomorrow night. And as we mentioned last week, they believe all of the council except for Vicente Sarmiento and Nelida Mendoza voted in favor of reducing the fee from $15, I believe, a square foot to $5.
I think they went 10 to 5, and so they halved it. Yeah, but it was funny because, like, I think I remember some of the critique of the ordinance was saying, like, oh, this in lieu fee thing, it wasn't that great. We've only collected this much money, so let's just half the amount of money that they have to pay. Yeah, so it's making things easier for developers to move forward. I'm sure that's the rationale behind this. We'll see. It will be interesting to see all of because the second edit they did was pushing some deadline back where the in lieu fee would go up to $15 if in some circumstance, like you don't have a permit yet after a certain date in 2021. They pushed that date back too. So it would be interesting to see all of the developments that are of over 20 units that meet that classification, but all those that will come in between now and that time. And we'll see how many of those are donors to our candidates. So, yes. Yes. Data. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like this doesn't help bring us more affordable housing, especially in a city that desperately needs more housing, and less density. People that are really affected by a lack of affordable housing. I mean, I'm not seeing how this helps them.
Yeah, it does not. I believe it's a step in the wrong direction, and I don't know if we're going to be able to take the step back. But I mean, that's what's going to be decided in the upcoming election with the mayor race, of course, and also with the council races. So, as is the case in every city, development money is huge. It's big, and some would say it's king. It's one of the bigger, lobbyists, entities and forces in cities that are able to really, sway, even when it's such a small percentage of people that are building development and such. But there's different interests in play, of course, the building trades and others who, and interesting, and I think, as we mentioned last time, they were, the building trades and the developers were basically slinging mud at each other and saying, it's like, we want to get rid of this, but we also want to get rid of these, local hire and project labor agreements, because this makes it very unattainable to build. And the building trades pushed back, of course, and said, like, no, this is good, union jobs with benefits and wages, and we need to promote, not pull back on that. So
it's complicated.
Hashtag it's complicated.
Yeah.
All right, more on that, no doubt.
Definitely. We'll see what happens here.
Next story.
Well, we all saw or heard that Hurricane Laura made landfall in Louisiana, damaging a lot, like with really fast winds, damaging a lot of Louisiana and parts of Texas. So that storm has mellowed a bit, but it could be dangerous again when it reaches the water as it comes out the other side. But a weird little side story here is that there was this town in Louisiana which was having their own debate about a Confederate monument. And the town, they decided to keep it despite protests. And only a few weeks later, Laura comes through and tears it down on behalf of the people.
Oh, there you go. I think God is against Confederate monuments, is what I'm reading into it here.
Yeah,
I think
they a lot of religious folk blame, or some religious folk blame these kinds of disasters on, they'll say, oh, it's these gay nightclubs in Florida that are causing all these disasters and things like that. But what do they say about this kind of stuff? I don't know. I'm not sure. Wouldn't they have spared the statue if the God was on their side?
I think.
What I mean?
I think they'll be like, oh, the devil was behind this hurricane.
God made the hurricane, but the devil, he was like skipping around in there, and he just like legs like sweeped that damn statue right off. And yeah, he broke his ankles. The ankles were shattered on the statue, so that would make sense.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I read that and I was like, wow, that is I don't know, divine intervention. If I ever saw some.
I believe again.
Believe. All right. Man, this was a heart-wrenching story, truly. So it came out that this past week, according to clickorlando.com, 39 missing children, including sex trafficking victims, found in Georgia, and 9 were arrested during 2-week operation. So this is incredibly good news for these children. And in the operation, it's called Operation Not Forgotten, led to the rescue of these children, including 15 victims of sex trafficking, the safe location of 13 other missing children, and the arrest of 9 people. The children rescued were between 3 and 17 years old. The operation was conducted by the U.S. Marshals Service Missing Child Unit. And so.
Yeah, it's freaking scary. They arrested There's dozens of adults that were involved with this, I believe. Arrested 26 others. 26
others, yeah.
So, I mean, and, when I heard the story, it made me think of, like, all the kind of QAnon folk who are very, passionate about fighting these Pizzagate things, you know, and they have this concern about like things like Jeffrey Epstein or even this case, right? But then they don't use facts to chase actual cases, right? They have a passion and a concern, and they feel like they're activists for this, but by believing in something like QAnon, it's like, well, they didn't help. Q didn't break any of these cases. Like actual investigation of facts did, and that's what helped people. So it's like, yeah, have passion. That's good. We need to fight against all these things, right? But you have to use facts too, right?
Yeah, no, that's basically how I feel. I concur. And so there is human trafficking, whether it's through the immigration detention centers, where, let us not forget, children went missing, children were abused. So, you know, who knows, like, you know, that was tied into, you know, some of this child trafficking. But man, 3 to 17 years old, I mean, these are children, and God knows, you know, what they went through and what they could have gone through had they not been rescued. So this is the kind of, you know, stories that we need to hear more, because, you know, I mean, I believe that, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein is the top of the iceberg when it comes to these issues, and more needs to be put onto it. But, you know, the whole QAnon and, you know, putting on the Democrats and Trump being the savior, and that's just,
yeah.
In the great words of Uncle Joe, malarkey.
You dog-faced pony soldier. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and so next
top story, we have a little tech story for you guys here. Looks like there might be a little war in Silicon Valley regarding upcoming security policy. Apple's new iPhone operating system is making it harder for Facebook to track people. And this is kind of a surprising story, because basically what Apple is doing is making it so that you don't have to share your device's ID by default. The user would actually have to consent to a service to supply that device ID, which is not done now. And this would upset the way Facebook runs a lot of its advertising. It uses these IDs and information to make advertising identifiable to us, right? So yeah, so two tech tycoons with a and maybe you wouldn't expect this from Apple, right? But apparently, from what I've heard, Apple has been somewhat on the forefront of at least these kind of security measures and privacy. And when things like the GDPR in Europe came through, I think Apple was pretty much on the forefront of having that available. So it is kind of curious, because it's like, I think Apple is trying to keep a reputation of the style and security, right? They have to maintain that. That's what kind of brought them back into the market, right? And so to keep that reputation, to be on top of security, because look, I always imagine like the big corporate tycoons are all just, you know, like kind of like, we don't have to do this, right? They didn't have to, right? So it's curious. We'll see what happens though. So
then Apple's on the right, on good right now. They're cool.
He evidently so in this case. Yes, they're your corporate tech oligarch of the month.
All right. Yay! I know. Last month it was owner from Tesla, but now
we give credit to our tech overlords when they do things right. So.
Oh man! Before I get into Karen's corner, well, damn it! All right, never mind. I'll get into this one later. Karen's corner.
Karen's corner.
Got a new graphic.
What? Wah, wah. Do you know who I am? That's sometimes.
Oh man. Yeah. Thanks to Edgar for putting that through here. Hashtag not all Karens. Hashtag not all Karens are white. So this was a doozy. So video shows racist women calling cops on black joggers. You Africans are so effing violent. The women involved said they were also called the N-word. So in this video that appeared on ABC7, other places, apparently this happened in LA. So yeah, those women spewing racist comments toward a group of black women in Los Angeles. And, you know, in the video you say, Um, I have to expose this, so I actually caught up to her. The woman that was accosted. Tell me again what you said, and that's when I started recording. She just continued. So yeah, it's and I think this woman was Latina. So
It's
this
an
is
odd specimen. It might be a mutation from the original creature that we've encountered.
I know, yeah. But then there was another story about a Ken saying that he was going to sue a Chipotle employee for saying that he would not serve him if he didn't have a mask. He's like, I have a condition. I will die for carbon monoxide.
I'm entitled. Yeah. So you're saying not all Karens are white, and not all Karens are even Karens. They're Kens. Not all Karens are even women. So yeah. So check your stereotypes. How dare you?
All right. Yeah. So come on, guys. Let's get it together. Stop calling the police on people of color for frivolous things. Because as we know, that could end really badly.
You could be on this segment.
Yeah. So you could be on this segment.
Even you.
Let's go ahead and jump into our top stories.
Top stories.
Phil and Thompson.
Top of the top. Well, I mean, it's the story of the maybe year that the events that unfolded in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Apparently, jump in anytime, Jose, but perhaps things were starting. A black man, Jacob Blake, was shot 7 times by police. That sparked a lot of the demonstrations, and it didn't end there, right? Because near someone who drove in from the outside, a 17-year-old white boy named Kyle Rittenhouse, who's a fan of like Blue Lives Matter, a big police fan. He came in with a rifle and acted as part of different militias that were acting to, protect life and property, to kind of fill what they saw a vacuum where the police weren't doing their jobs. So this kid ends up killing 2 people and shooting it was 3 to 5 other people. But at least
blowing off the arm of one. And Trump, in his press conference said he was getting accosted, he would have died, but he had to defend himself. So it's so problematic. Like, you really think that a black person walking, towards cops with a rifle was going to just be able to just, have them drive by? I just don't see that. I don't think that would be the case. So that, is example of white privilege, but, and also it came out as reported by John Oliver last night that the police chief in Kenosha had some very problematic, borderline racist comments to make about black people and having them arrested and preventing them from having children. And man, it was just hella eugenicist.
Oh yeah, it was bad. And apparently that was in a response to a case, some like shoplifting case in 2018. He kind of freaked out and had this press conference saying, I'm at the point where I think society has come to a threshold where some people that aren't worth saving, we can put them away for the rest of their lives so the rest of us can be better. And he goes on to describe warehousing people. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is really a troubling situation. And especially when you have white militias going into these cities and acting as police. And, again, the video show the police were very much saying, hey, guys, thanks for being here. You guys are great. Meanwhile, there was a curfew. Why are they allowed to be out when everybody else is getting shot with rubber bullets?
And being thanked by the police and given water.
Here, have some water. We would, and then they ask him like, why did you do that? We would give water to anybody, okay? It's like, come on. Yeah.
They were thanking them for being there with their guns. So.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous. Well, so. Just the latest example of black people getting shot. The man that killed all those people at a church, right? A young kid got taken to Burger King after he murdered all those people.
Yeah,
and it's very apparent, and to that, the NBA and Milwaukee Bucks boycotted their game, and so did then a lot of other teams followed suit. So then that was a show of force and solidarity on saying like we're tired of being killed by, by our people being killed for being black, So it's and this is different, right? He didn't plead for his life for 8 minutes on the floor under a knee of a cop. He was walking away, but it's like it's just bad, period, and we need to do something about it. Hashtag Black Lives Matter.
Big time.
All right. And our final story for segue into our awesome guest tonight. South Santa Ana gets more voting access after city officials question Orange County's registrar of voters. So this was that came out of the Voice of OC. Orange County officials are planning for more ballot drop boxes in South Santa Ana, a crowded and public transit dependent stretch of one of California's densest city, after council members last month voiced concern about potential voter access desert in the area. The boxes allow voters a simpler way to cast their mail ballot by dropping them off, as opposed to mailing through Postal Service, at a time when controversial changes and cutbacks to the U.S. Postal Service have caused delays, while in-person voting will likely be less attractive to residents during the novel coronavirus health crisis and its restrictions on human interaction out in public. So, this is on the back of reality that the city of Santa Ana has been one of the top cities as far as number of cases for coronavirus. So very much need to have safe ways for folks to engage in the democratic process and have their votes be counted. So this
Big time.
is going to happen, which is a good thing for democracy.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's an interesting map there too that shows the previous plan versus the one they're going to do. If you guys want to go see the Voice of OC article, but yeah, it's kind of ridiculous how little resources they're going to commit to a gigantic swath of the city. And it's good that our council member said something and it had results.
Absolutely, which is a great segue, probably one of the greatest ever.
Definitely.
Bringing into the conversation. Council candidate will be running and be seeking that representation that is desperately needed because and this is the kind of when you have councilmen and women and council members that push the envelope and make sure that these kinds of policies happen, then that's when good things happen. So with that, I want to bring onto the show Thai Viet Phan. Please unmute yourself and show us your awesome video. Hi. So Thai Viet Phan is a Vietnamese refugee who has lived in Santa Ana for over 20 years, despite relying on food stamps in Section 8 to make ends meet. She attended Garden Grove Unified School District schools, was the first in her family to graduate from high school and attend college, and is now a Santa Ana planning commissioner and city attorney. Her priorities include addressing housing affordability, increasing economic development, and improving public safety. Welcome back to the show, Thai.
Thanks so much for having me, y'all. I'm glad to be here again.
Yay! Second time's a charm, right?
Glad for now. We'll see in a little bit.
Oh, no. Oh, we are so nice. We're too nice, some would say. So is it you're running for a different ward this time around? Is that correct? Ward 1?
Yes. So some background on this whole situation. So this is the first time in 150 years that Santa Ana is going to have districted elections. And this happened in 2018, actually December 2018, when Santa Ana settled a California Voting Rights Act lawsuit because the Asian American community, the vast majority of whom are Vietnamese Americans, had historically not had representation on the dais. In fact, in 150 years, we've had 2 Asian Americans ever elected to Santa Ana City Council, one in the 70s and one in 2019. So, and never a Vietnamese American, despite the fact that Santa Ana comprises 1/4 of Little Saigon. So it's very exciting to run in this district because this district was specifically carved out for the Asian American, representation, for a Vietnamese American voice. And so I'm really excited to run and represent my community, and of course, work with a broad coalition of supporters because we are council members for everybody in the city.
That's right.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because like, so only being a district election, it means only the people in your ward can vote for you. So the residents of Ward 1 will be voting for you. Has that been interesting as far as running your campaign? I mean, I know this is at least your second political campaign.
Yes, I had so much experience with a 2.5-month campaign during the beginning of COVID. Crazy, maybe. But it is different. It's different because you're very focused on the issues that your residents in that particular district care about. And it's something that is really, really important to me because as someone who speaks Vietnamese, I am able to talk to residents directly and say, what do you need? What is it that resonates with you? What matters to you? And I've had so many people just tell me, I just need someone who can understand me, someone who understands where I'm coming from. Well, a lot of people don't know, for example, is that on a typical day, if someone like my mom, who only speaks Vietnamese, goes to City Hall and say she wants to open a business or get some paperwork, more than likely, there's not one person who speaks Vietnamese on the floor. And that's horrible, right? Because that means tens of thousands of our residents cannot be serviced by our city. And that's an issue of not just, representation, it's an issue of equity. And so that's really what this campaign is about. But it is different because you're very focused on the West Side. And frankly, if you're from the West Side, like I was, we all know that we're historically ignored. So very excited to really, represent our end of the city.
Nice.
You can tell by the ballot box because under the old map, there was only one drop box west of the river.
I see. So yeah, similar repeating story we're seeing this year. It looks like they fixed it this time. And it is kind of, I don't know, maybe most of our residents, I don't know how familiar people are with their wards, but haven't 1 and 6 like switched right on the map kind of? Because wasn't it 6 before? And so yeah, if there are maps available if you're not familiar.
Yeah, so you should definitely check it out because the numbering's changed. Under the settlement, this West Side ward had to go up first in 2020. That was part of the settlement. And also the boundaries have changed. So you really want to check, you can go to the Santa Ana website, check exactly where you live, whether you're voting for a city council member in 2020. And it's funny because actually the West Side used to be carved up into 3 wards. So, there's a little hinkiness that happened back then, but I'm excited that we fixed it.
Right. Yeah. So you've been on the show. You were on the show last year and you talked do you want to give a little bit of a background for anyone new watching? Like, what would you bring to the dais? Like, what are your skills and like, what compelled you to run?
Yeah, so in the spring of 1987, a man and a woman.
Yeah, it's going back. Yeah, we're gonna be here a while. It's gonna be a long
very much.
No, so no secret. I was born in 1987 near a refugee camp in Thailand, hence the name Thai. And my middle name is Viet because I'm Vietnamese. My parents were not creative at all. And but they're real names. It's not like naming your kid America. Like you'll meet people named Thai.
They're okay.
Anyway, so I was born near a refugee camp because my parents fled Vietnam. My dad was a nurse during the Vietnam War, and he was very adamant that we would not raise a family. They would not raise a family in communist Vietnam. And any refugees or immigrants whose families fled war and fled destruction understand, the decisions that my parents made. And so my mom was like 9 months pregnant, left Vietnam in the jungles of Southeast Asia, and 3 weeks after landing in Thailand gave birth to me. So we eventually came to America and when I was 2, and I was in Santa Ana pretty much my entire childhood. Lived on the West Side with most of the Vietnamese American community, like many others in the Little Saigon community. Attended Garden Grove Unified School District schools, which services about 8,000 Santa Ana residents, Santa Ana students, and was very lucky. I had incredible teachers and community members because my mom has a 3rd grade education, and not long after we came to America, my biological dad passed away. It's all sorts of crazy. Like my mom is the most incredible woman I know, and she raised us. Eventually, got a stepdad. Okay, and I became the first in my family to graduate from college, from high school, and then go to college. So I went to UCLA, and then went to USC for my Master of Public Policy and my law degree. And that's really where I tell people that's where I discovered local government, because anybody who grows up thinking that local government is cool is weird. And I was like, I'm gonna work in education policy. Like that was my silver bullet out of poverty. I grew up on Section 8, when back we called it housing. And then, we had food stamps back when it looked like Monopoly money. You get the little booklets. Like that was my experience growing up, like living in garages, sharing bedrooms, 4 people to a queen bed if we can get it, and then be able to go to college. So education was really important to me. But once I got there, I realized that, wait, I have a roof over my head, a safe place to be, a park to go to. Like those are all local government issues. And so that's really where I kind of learned about it. And so now I'm a city attorney. I represent cities, and I help them figure out how to comply with state and federal law. And so I want to bring that to, first to be a planning commissioner, but also be a city council member. We have so many issues that are super complicated where, whether it's housing or public safety or, just water rates, we have experts whose entire career is dedicated to doing this work. And so my entire career has been dedicated to public service and wanting to bring that, not just my personal experience as an immigrant, a Santa Ana resident, but also someone who's a professional in this area, to really move our city forward, because I'm really tired of literally the same old system and the same old programs. So that wasn't super short, but that's a bit about me.
No, perfect. Get everyone caught up.
For being on the show, Ty. I think you said it all. Right. Just,
Okay.
Just kidding. No, I think that's when you talked about Section 8 housing and food stamps, and I mean, we didn't have Section 8 housing, but I definitely understand growing up and sleeping on the floors, and just kind of the immigrant story. Just kind of having people that live together and help each other out. It's almost like cocooning, or until you're able to then branch off and start your own life. And that was my story with my parents. We're all living together in one house, all the uncles and their kids and wives and stuff. And then slowly but surely, everybody started getting their own homes and start making their own way. So, but that, and which I think says a lot about the need for us to continue to provide that. And because a lot of the, right-wing conservative bootstrap mentality will tell you is like, don't give people handouts because they'll always be dependent on the government. And Ty, your example shows that's like, no, like, people need a leg up, need, they say in Spanish, una palanca, to be able to like help you, like lift you up out of poverty and get you in a position that like you did, a successful, woman, like, that now running for office. And, and I'll say the last thing I'll say is like, it is refreshing to hear you being so like, understanding about policy, because I think sometimes people jump into office and they don't really know, they have a lot of eagerness and passion for trying to make change, but they just don't necessarily know how to go about doing that. And so I think you have a little bit of both, or a lot of bit of both, passion for for serving and knowledge about how to make these things happen. So and I will stop like buttering you up from here on out. It's gonna get very much tougher from here on out.
Well, I do want to say that, as someone who's Asian American, who's an attorney, I am articulate, and so I don't present as someone who's experienced. And I've had people straight up just tell me, "Oh, you don't sound like someone who would care about something like this." And
compliment.
Like, yeah, right.
You mean better. Delivery's off.
But it's really important for me to talk about that, because when I talk about, growing up in poverty and not knowing where, whether you're going to afford housing or, how many people are living in the house and all of that stuff. It takes 20 years, 25 years of investing in this person, this child, for me to have made it, right? Whether it's through all of childhood to college to grad school, and then now paying a lot of taxes. And I'm more than happy to do that because, I'm giving back and I'm paying it forward. But 25 years is a long time, and a lot of people don't see that. But I know that as someone who's an attorney, my sister's a freaking doctor. She's an eye doctor. Like, it's a lot of investment, but it's worth it, and it makes our community and our world a little bit better. And so I want to remind people of that. And like, no, look at me. It works if we really do it right. I hope.
Right on. Yeah. I'm totally like a fan of eye places right now. As everybody might or might not have seen, these are new glasses I got.
Wow.
Please compliment me. I need them. Just kidding.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe to my Facebook page for my glasses. All right. So Ty, let's jump into some issues, I guess. So the housing opportunity ordinance, as we talked about that, that this is one that is being rolled back more than likely by tomorrow. I think that that's the second vote that they need, and then that's it, right? No more votes. So I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, this was really complicated when it came to the Planning Commission. Normally, the Planning Commission, we don't look at these kinds of ordinances, and of course we did, and it was definitely a heavy lift because there's a lot of aspects in here. For me, I've advocated before about dealing with housing affordability. As I mentioned, that's my experience, and now I'm a homeowner. And literally, I'm a homeowner because my husband's a veteran and we have the VA loan. When you have two young professionals not being able to afford a house unless they get zero down for a special program, that's a problem, right? But for me, when I was looking at the housing opportunity ordinance, I saw the $15. I saw, we have these entitled projects. But what I also learned as I was, digging through all of this is that, as far as I understand it, we have not had one project pay the $15 in lieu fee. So while we said we've collected this money, it's going to affordable housing, but in the last 5 years we've not collected a dollar, and that's a problem to me because I always say I'm a pragmatic progressive. I want to see stuff happen, and nothing is happening. And we know that when it comes to affordable housing development, it's not just collecting the fees. If we only use the fees that we collect, it actually still doesn't build a ton of units. You need to get federal and state grants. So you need to get these dollars in so that the state and federal government can actually participate and move that project forward, which is still another 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And so that was one of the issues that I saw. And of course, as you saw, if you listened to the Planning Commission meeting, it was very contentious. A lot of people had no idea what was going on, and moved it forward. I hope that I think the way that the council has said, we're trying to get these built, we're trying to get the dollars collected, that if this passes, that these buildings happen, because we need dollars in the door. And that's because my concern is if we don't get those dollars, it's not going to go to any affordable development. It's not going to help anybody. And I want to see those dollars help current residents. And because during the commission, I asked a lot of questions about, well, how many units do we have that are going to be converted to market rate in the next year, in the next 10 years? And those are homes that would have actual low income current Santa Ana residents that are going to go away. And so I want to use those dollars to help those residents. Yes, I want to see more, building affordable units, Jamboree housing, all of that stuff. But if you follow affordable housing development, Irvine had one that was, I think, 60 units, 80 units, and they had over 2,000 applicants. And I can guarantee you not all of them are from Irvine. So you have 60 or 80 units servicing a whole region. And I don't think that that's something that's going to help our residents as soon as possible. And so that's where I see it going. I hope that they'll revisit the WHO, once that time period ends, and so that we can actually revisit it, because I think they're addressing it because of COVID. And once COVID is over, I hope that they take another look at it. So.
Right. And maybe I had the wrong understanding of some of this issue, but I thought maybe they had collected some fees, but they hadn't spent any money to produce housing. Because like, think about it, like how much money does it take to build an entire, commission an entire building? You know, I mean, this is hundreds of millions perhaps. I mean, I'm not sure, but that's the thing that why I don't understand this policy that well is because if are they expecting to collect more money by reducing the in lieu fees? I mean, was that the idea, or are they just trying to make it easier for developers to come in?
So I think, well, let me address the first issue. So okay. The WHO's been around since before 2015, right? And before 2015, the in lieu fees were lower. And there have been developers who paid the lower in lieu fee. And so that's where a lot of the money from the housing fund is. But since 2015, what's happened is developers are getting entitlements, so the last 5 years or so, but none of them have pulled building permits, and they don't pay the in lieu fees until they pull the building permits. And so you have arguably 22 million or so, I think it's 22 million dollars potentially promised to you if they pull the building permits, but they don't have to pull the building permits. And there are issues where, entitlements are being extended and all this other stuff, right? There's multiple steps, but the point is no dollars have been collected in those last 5 years.
I see.
And so now I asked staff, I was like, okay, we have, I think, $1.9 million left. How many units can you build with that? If the city was like the only one going at it. And I think they said it was like between 8 and 12 units, maybe. So, because affordable units are like, they're expensive because it's a publicly funded. And so you have to make sure that, you meet all sorts of rules and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm looking at it. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion lies when they're saying, okay, well, fees are being collected, fees are not being collected. Right. I think that lowering the fee, I think what they're trying to do is twofold. One is to say, okay, we need to help developers because COVID, right? Let's say that's one of the arguments. We need to move it forward. The other argument is, well, we I guess technically have fees that should be coming in, but they're not. How do we make sure that they do come in? So if you're a developer and you're saying, okay, well, I want to build, and the city says, well, I want you to pay, by lowering the fee or whatever it is that they have lowered it to, is arguably what they're trying to do to get those dollars in the door. We'll see, right? It's going to be an experiment, I guess, and we'll see what happens. And hindsight will be 2020, but that's why I want to see the city council revisit, and which I think they will, because one of my recommendations when I was on the planning commission is that we have a sunset and that we do revisit this issue. So it's not something where 5 or 10 years later and it never gets looked at.
Right. And maybe one more question, because I was kind of confused reading the second change. It's easier to understand the having the fee amount, but the other one was pushing some date back for the date that they could pull permits. And so if they don't pull it by October 1st of 2021, the in lieu fee reverts to $15. That's the other thing they changed. They changed it from like April 1st to October 1st. But like, so my question was, so wait, anyone after that time has to pay 15, or what do developers do after October 31st or 1st?
So I haven't seen the most recent iteration. It's been a crazy time.
Yeah, I'm sure you're busy.
But from what I recall regarding the April is, yes, if you do not pull between that time, it reverts back. But I have to see the exact language of exactly what they put in there. Right. I don't hold me to that, because it could say that it reverts to $10 instead of $5 or something like that. So I want to take a look at it. But the point of having that deadline is to get people moving.
Yeah, I guess they want to give them a chance to pay that.
I know that, how it was created was, they brought developers and community leaders, advocates for affordable housing, and sat them all down. And, it was a compromise of sorts to be able to do this. I understand that, COVID is a, extraordinary moment, and I remember Pulido saying like that nothing is being built right now, and I don't think that that's the case. Like I do believe that there's a massive housing development happening off of the 55 and First, and others that I've seen. So, and I don't know if also the claim by others that that affordable housing, like we're like the most here in Santana, because I mean, you know, you just pointed to Irvine, and Irvine is Irvine, and that's just not really a fair to, you know, comparison to what they do versus what we do and other cities do. But I mean, I have a person saying here that David Durant, the county has approximately $1 billion in discretionary funds that could help fund housing, and also modular homes, tiny homes, buying motels. Just a few ways to create permanent affordable housing. It doesn't have to be expensive. Developing S2 zones, rezoning for development, etc. There are plenty of options. So, what do you think about those?
Yeah, so I mean, I have been an advocate for increasing development, like density, middle density, medium density specifically, in the city. And I'm totally into tiny homes. It really reduces my stress when I watch those videos. I think they're important. I think it's important for us to look, you know, we obviously as a city adopted an ADU ordinance, accessory dwelling unit ordinance, pursuant to the state law, and to make it easier for, you know, these kinds of developments by individuals. But when you're talking about stuff like tiny homes, accessory dwelling units, junior accessory dwelling units, those are normally done on single family residential lots. Maybe a duplex lot. You're not building, you know, 1,000 units or 500 units. My neighbor might do it or something. And that, yeah, and that's great. I think the point of that is to help, frankly, either more senior parents have kids live with them or vice versa. And that's really the history of that. And hopefully the Vietnamese and the Latino community actually take advantage of that, because I know my mom loves it because I live near her. And eventually when she gets older, she'll want to live with us or something. And I think that's important. Yeah, it's important to have, it's an aspect of it, but it's not going to solve like the broader question. But I also very much, for me, I don't compare our city to Irvine or something like that. But where I do compare us is to say Santa Ana is building, and we're trying to get various types of development, right? Whether it's mixed use, market rate, we have affordable housing units that are being built, and we can argue about what's actual affordable and what not. But I am so tired of people from outside of our city trying to claim that, oh, Santa Ana needs to keep building, building, building. I'm like, what if you go to Huntington Beach and tell them to build some housing there? And they freaking sued the state so they wouldn't have to. So no, don't try to come to our town where our residents are living in the fourth densest city in America and saying that we have to increase our own density. Like, we need to be taking care of the dilapidated housing, the, you know, freaking slumlords that are not taking care of their units, and the streets in the areas that are, you know, have no parking. Like, that's what we need to be doing. So don't tell me that you have to come here and put in another 300 units of whatever. Go to, you know, your city council and complain over there. That's my soapbox. We're done.
Yeah. I don't want to get stuck on this topic, but I will say developers could just include affordable housing in their developments and not have to pay in lieu fees if they don't want to.
Whoa.
And that's what the challenge is for me. So, you know, and you know, cities bend over backwards many times to make, you know, sweetheart deals for developers, and we don't get the inclusionary housing that we desperately need. It could be really simple, but you chose to make it hard. All right, that's enough. Ty is not appreciating my singing. All right. So yeah, more on that, no doubt. But thanks for those comments and the conversation. So, man, what do you want to talk about, Dylan? What?
Well, like maybe what's something about Ward 1 that when you've been talking to your electorate, maybe there's an issue there that's important.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of issues particular to our ward, and I think the first thing specifically is language access and community outreach. It sounds so minor when you look at like the grand scheme of things, but it's not. Historically, our community, Asian Americans in the city, are just not, we're not vocal. We don't have representation on the dais at city council, at meetings. And while, you know, it seems okay, but it's not, because one of the things that I've been talking to residents, I share my phone number, I'm very open about that. People call and say, can you help me with this? I don't understand. Or who do I talk to about something? And just being able to communicate with residents has been incredible. The other thing is, you know, really saying, how do we streamline the small business process? It's been really difficult. Asians, Latinos, we have a lot of small businesses. Santa Ana, like our lifeblood is small businesses owned by minorities. But like, it's so difficult to figure out the permitting process, opening a small business, opening a boba shop, for example. What process do you have to go to? Like, do you know? No, you have to go to
it's hard.
Yeah, and like what fees you're paying and all of that stuff. And that's something that is kind of like the bread and butter of being a city council member, right? Those everyday things. How do I build a livelihood? And that's really what I've been hearing about. And it's sucks because I wish we already had it, but at the same time, exciting to know that, okay, well, I can try to push this forward. One of the examples, it's been quite small, but is to talk about, say, the small business grants for COVID, right? And just to be able to say, hey, this is what it is, this is what's available, but to do it in language from someone who looks like someone in your community, you can understand, you can reach out. And I think that's really important for our voters. And of course, housing is an issue, you know, economic development, and of course, public safety. Anybody in Santa Ana who tells you public safety is not an issue, no matter which side they're on, is lying. Just, you know, we've had, I get those Nixle alerts all the time. Just had something about, you know, that lady who tried to kidnap 2-year-olds and all of that stuff. And while those are not the fun things to talk about, you know, it's not like Medicare for all or whatever. It's really the things that someone like my mom, my aunt, my neighbor is asking me about. Just what they care about.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, it's an interesting topic. I mean, the police, I mean, and this whole discussion that's come up, like defund the police and stuff. I mean, maybe what's your take on that? Like, I mean, how do you interpret that, the spirit of that idea?
So first, I need to say, whoever came up with the term, look, people have different, let's start off with the premise that everybody has a different interpretation with what defund the police means, right? One person will say, oh, it just means a little reform. Another person is like, let's destroy everything. Whoever came up with that term, if their goal was to say, I just want reform, is dumb. Because I believe in reforming public safety. I believe that we need to look into our policies, how, you know, a police oversight commission, you know, that is strong enough to actually hold those who screw up accountable. But let's be frank here, I do not believe in defunding the police. And I'll tell you why. When I was 4, I believed that my mom's business had Santa Claus and went looking for Santa Claus, left the house. You know who took me home? Santa Ana police officers. When I was in the 4th grade, our home was burglarized. We were tied up in a home invasion, like for hours. And you know who came and helped us? Santa Ana police. Are they perfect? Hell no. Do we need to look at our policies and reform the things that are wrong? Yes. But we need to make the right investments in things like, in my opinion, community policing, where if you can have a conversation with your officer and things are going wrong, or like some kid is screwing up, you know, the officer can go to their parents. The officer can say, hey, fix this, clean up the graffiti, whatever, right? And that's the initial reaction. Or if someone like my mom, having Vietnamese speaking officers who she can call if something goes wrong is incredible to build that trust. So that's my problem with saying defund the police, because for people in my community who is, you know, who's not, you know, we're not gun-toting Southerners or something. We have that sense, we need that sense of security, and they do a lot of good things, but that doesn't mean that they're perfect. And I do believe that we have a lot of work to do.
We certainly do. Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that folks that say these things or created these things are necessarily dumb, but I do think that they are misplaced in their, you know, the, I guess, the sloganization of policy, as if
They needed a better communications director.
Well, I think the way you put it, Ty, is you said if they were trying to reform the police, then the messaging is dumb. And I somewhat agree with that, because in a way they're not, they're trying to reform the police such that they're taking responsibilities away from them. You know what I mean? That's how I see it. Like, so for instance, I don't think the cops want to be the people that deal with people with mental crises and people that have,
They don't, but at the same time, I think a lot of times folks are afraid to say things because they're afraid that the other side is going to take it and call them socialists. And I say that they're going to call us socialists, no matter, they're calling Biden a socialist for heaven's
a radical,
like a radical fringes. He wants to do, and he's saying, like, I never said that. Like, I do not want to, and it doesn't matter because they want you to believe that that's what they're saying. And so, I guess even the conversation around it is disingenuous, even in the best of times, with the best of terms, right? And I know you're not saying that, like, that people are, like, not intelligent, but yeah, I see what your point is, and I agree with it ultimately. I think,
yeah, ultimately, any of us in public spaces know that messaging is like 50% of the battle, right? And it sucks because it's hard to advocate for reform when there's someone else over here yelling about, trying to switch the narrative because of the slogan that's being used. And yes, that's gaslighting. Yes, that's screwing with our, what we're trying to do or the changes that we're trying to make. But that's also on us. Like, we have to control the narrative, and part of that goes with how we're messaging what we're trying to do. And I think that's important. Because it works, right? It works for a lot of people. It works for the Republicans all the time.
It's true.
Yeah.
But let's say if they are intending to try to not reform it, but replace it, then the language makes sense. If that's actually their goal, if they really don't care about reform, then, I mean, that's appropriate language to stir people that really have a problem with it, because you're not going to breach people that are mad about it by saying, let's reform the police. So it's all about audience, like, who's the audience, right? It's an interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the young people, they're just like, sky's the limit, screw it, let's just go big or go home, and and find the compromise somewhere in between. It's like let's land somewhere in between, like, militarization and abolishing ICE. Like, there's got to be a sweet spot somewhere in there.
Right.
But yeah, I think when you go into communities and you talk to the residents, and door to door, you talk to people, they're gonna. You ask them, like, should we get rid of the police? They're like, no, I want those fools to, like, get here quicker. I call them, and then they're like, they get here like an hour later. Like, the dude, like, is gone. I talked to this lady the other day that selling corn lady. She's saying that that she got robbed by a homeless person, like, and then she, like, they're like, oh, call the police, and police, I guess they apprehended the dude and stuff. So, like, yeah, we do need them to, like, go after, like, real criminals and such, but I think a real healthy conversation needs to be had, and it is being had, and will be ongoing. And so, around what public safety looks like, and how we can do it a better way, as opposed to just throwing money at the problem. Similar to the homeless issue, can't throw money at the problem and think it's going to go away. There's institutional reasons and and intersectional type of things that will make it so that we can truly get to the root of these things, right?
Well, I think for me, one of the first things is we need to rebuild that trust. We need to get our officers back into our neighborhoods, walking and being available, being there. And that's hard. That's a lot of stuff, right? Santa Ana is very large. We're very dense. There's a lot of things going on. But I think it's really important to continue to reinvest in that community policing, because I was raised to literally do not talk to the police. And I don't, it could be that my parents come from a country that was, authoritarian, essentially, where you couldn't trust the government, or they were just, don't speak English, and so they were afraid. But at the end of the day, we need to rebuild that sense of trust. We need to have our officers be seen as one of us, as part of this community. And I really think that matters. And part of that is going to be, in my opinion, recruiting people who are in this community, who grew up here, who knows what it's like to live here, who knows the families and the neighborhoods and the communities. And that's, I think, going to make not just the community safer, obviously the officers safer, and frankly, save the city dollars. There's so many benefits to doing that and really investing in that. And I want to see that. I want to see that happen for our city because I know it can. And you're right. They shouldn't be dealing with, someone who is a nonviolent mental health breakdown, right? And they should be, dealing with, theft or the whatever. We should have investments in, better mental health responses, and not just someone who goes out and say, here's a card, someone who's actually equipped to deal with someone who is in full breakdown. It's scary, but that's the kind of programs that we have to figure out because we do have, a mental health crisis on our hands, and a lot of our residents who are homeless are dealing with that. So it's a multifaceted, for sure, solution and issue. But I am glad that we're talking about it because it means that we're trying to find a solution to those.
Oh yeah, big
Wonderful.
time.
We are running out of time, Ty, but I want to say, I think this time from last time to this time, you got the Democratic Party of Orange County's endorsement. I'm not sure if you had it the
Both
first time.
times.
Both times.
Oh.
Wow. 2 times.
Oh yeah.
But, yeah. So, so that's good. And, and I think it's, obviously I as I mentioned to you before, I was, part of the campaign when I was working in the nonprofit world to try to push a district election because I saw in the need and very much real, and for representation of the Vietnamese community in Santana, and district elections in general just allows for grassroots candidates like yourself, might not have, these big money donors, lining up to fund, heavily, or, the big lobbyists of the world, that are trying to get their way through, through
the dark packs.
Yeah. The darkness out there, so, listen, I think it's a healthy conversation to have and around, policy wonkiness and the ins and outs of things. But at the end of the day, I want to know, and I think the voters is something I want to make sure that the people that we are electing are not beholden to these special interests, but are beholden to the interests of the community and the people. And so I believe that you are that candidate, and I think that's what we're going to be holding you accountable to when you win, and or if you win. When I want to kind of just say what is maybe 1, 2, 3 priorities that you plan to have in mind. You might have mentioned some of them, so if you did, then but when you hit the ground running, in January of next year, what do you want to see happen that can really make it good for the people of your ward, but also all the people of Santana, as far as your campaign priorities?
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much, GL, for having me here and just being able to have this conversation, right? It is really hard to talk to people during COVID and be able to dive into issues. I think that's really important rather than just a Facebook post, or I don't tweet. So it's yes, another way for me not to screw up. But, some priorities, first of all, economic development. We have to figure out a way to help our residents, our families, our small businesses get through this crisis. Our family has not been immune to unemployment, to salary cuts, to the effects of COVID. And I'm so blessed to have a job that allows me to, for us to stay afloat during this time. But I know so many people who aren't, who are struggling with, keeping a roof over their heads and keeping their businesses, their blood, sweat, and tears open. So that's the first thing. And we can dive into it maybe next time, but I'm really excited about cannabis in Santa Ana. I know that some people are still not sure, but first of all, they're essential jobs. Second of all, they're unionized. Thirdly, we can really capture the market before a lot of other cities start to understand how to deal with this. So that's going to be really important. I'm really glad that, you know, we're investing COVID funds, CARES funds, to help residents and businesses. The second thing is, of course, housing. I care so much about housing. That's like the thing that I want to do and want to work on. And it's going to be a continual push because we have the general plan coming up. It's something that's been in the works for a long time. And to continue to work on that as a planning commissioner and then as a city council member, as projects move forward, really figuring out where they can work out well. And of course, the third thing is public safety. And we had a long conversation about some of the things we need to do to reform our public safety. And it's not just going to be, you know, in police. It also matters that we look at CARES Act funding or city funding for programs for students. And, you know, I do appreciate that Councilmember Peñalosa mentioned utility, you know, being able to pay for utilities, but which includes internet. And I want to make sure that all of our students have access to internet, because I know that if my family didn't get support for that, I would not be learning. I'd just be watching a lot of Martha Stewart or the History Channel. So those are the three things that I care the most about. And all of it is always going to be layered with making sure that the Vietnamese community has someone who speaks their language, our language, and, you know, at City Hall, someone who's going to be available to answer questions, someone who's available to just help direct them where they need to go. And I think just that small thing is going to make a really big difference. And that's something I'm going to for sure push for when I win.
Nice.
There you go. That's the spirit. Well, two last things. One, I like that you say Latino with the, or, you know, with the Spanish accent and not the way Dylan says it. Latino. Birria. Yeah. So
I can't say birria.
Yeah. It's birria. Okay?
I can't trill.
Three years of high school Spanish. It's like, hablo español un poquito.
There you go. That's
I got food and I can say where I'm from, where's the restroom, and what I do. That's all you need.
That's it.
Basics.
El baño, por favor.
Well, actually, it's so funny because I work with a lot of Spanish-speaking, you know, like pro bono stuff, like immigration work. I worked on an asylum case before, and the Spanish is like, okay, she kind of gets me, I kind of get her, and then we use Google Translate. but it's important to try because I know that I'm the only person in this race who speaks Vietnamese, and I'm trying hard AF to continue practicing my Spanish so I can speak to residents. Because I swear, they just like that some Asian chick can say, me llamo Thai Phan, abogada, and that's good.
Yeah.
They're good with that.
That's a start.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah. Immersion. You got to get that immersion.
Yeah. We're gonna go on a taco food truck tour with Ty. Get some spice in it. So she'd be like, arriba,
Okay. Wow.
that was.
Can you do that? Okay.
I'm brown. Yeah.
It happened. Okay.
Yeah.
It happened.
It happened. I know. Like I'm thinking like I love D. Gonzalez. It was my favorite, and I just realized how racist it was. Oh, all my childhood heroes let me down. All right. So, Ty, where can folks find you as far as like Facebook and website and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so first, www.thaivietphan.com. My Facebook is, I believe, Vote Thai Viet Phan. Or you can just call me. My phone number is 714-478-5949. That is literally my personal cell. I will answer. I think it's really important to be available to people, to residents. And I've had residents call me out of the blue and be like, hey, can you help? And it's like, I will try.
That's great. Having being accessible to the residents is just like of utmost importance. You know, you might not, do what they want you to do, but hearing them out is just really important, and having that open door policy. So, yeah.
But don't come to my house because #COVID.
Yeah, let's say social distance, please.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I can't wait to be past this COVID so we can grab drinks and stuff. I don't know if anybody knows this, but Thai has a future in stand-up comedy. If this politician thing don't work out, he is beyond hilarious.
It is only funny if one person is drunk, usually the listener. And so, or it's like something super nerdy, but we'll work on it. We'll work on it. If Ali Wong can do it, I can do it.
There you go.
I say, yeah. All right. Well, once again, Thai Viet Phan running for Ward 1. Best of luck to you, and you stay safe and sane, and we're catching up to you, all right?
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Thanks.
Bye now. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Making it happen. Let's just have a moment of just silence. Just, can you bring it back, though?
Yeah. No, it was a good conversation. There's just so much always to talk about, but yeah.
So little time.
So much to talk about, so little time. But yeah, so then, man, there's just going to be so much at stake at the upcoming election. So we'll see.
It's been heavy.
It's been heavy, you know, and you know, we're seeing the signs everywhere, and including Ceci Iglesias' little like hand drawn
homemade ones, yeah.
Red paint ones. Those are cute. Yeah. So
Yeah, I don't know. I like Manny's homemade signs.
those are
Actually quite well made.
Stylish. Yeah, those are really well made.
Yeah.
I think by local artists, right?
Yeah, for sure. But hey, but wait, are like Santa Ana school children making Ceci signs, or because they're just like, they seem a little more quaint or something? I don't know.
No, but
some of the letters should be backwards for it to be like really cute.
yeah,
you know.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Man, so I was gonna say it earlier, but I you know, one of the things that happened this past week was that we lost a great actor, Chadwick Boseman, right?
Right.
That's his name, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, he was an actor in the Black Panther, as well as the Jackie Robinson biopic, as well as the Thurgood Marshall, and the James Brown biopic. So yeah, he was 43 years old, died of cancer, and his last tweet, became the most liked tweet in the history of Twitter, surpassing Barack Obama when he quoted an individual. I believe it was Nelson Mandela, but yeah, so a lot of people really, you know, shared all sorts of memes and pictures, including this little black kid, like with the, you know, like doing the Black Panther salute with all the superheroes, and then the Black Panther like laying down, and they're all in the circle. So, you know, just incredible like tributes to an incredible actor that we lost too soon. And he's like, he was bullied apparently for losing incredible amounts of weight, and you know, nobody knew that in 4 years, and through the movies, you know, the Black Panther and others, you know, projects that he was doing, he was battling cancer, and so he battled colon cancer valiantly, and unfortunately lost the battle at the end. But it just goes to show you don't know what people are going through, and still putting a smile on their face, and still going out there and putting their best, you know, their best face on, and taking on the world. But yeah, condolences and rest in power.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah. Sad.
But yeah. So and we couldn't be a It's Happening show without talking about the weather. We are expecting a second heat wave.
No
Triple digits coming.
Stop,
y'all. So yeah, get it.
Yeah, thought we were done. It's cool tonight. It's almost like too cold. I'm like, I had to put a shirt on.
I know. I was so cold last night. It was like uncomfortably cold. So yeah, it was too much.
Yeah, well, I'm ready for it. We got all these fans, got the AC going. There's going to be rolling. Yeah, I haven't had any blackouts yet here, but I'm kind of expecting it. We'll see if it gets over 100. Maybe we'll have some rolling blackouts in the city.
Oh man, yeah, I can't. I can't. Yeah. So we got great shows coming up soon. We have more council candidates. I believe we're gonna have a couple of people from HB Council coming up soon.
Oh,
Oscar Rodriguez and another individual.
Whoa.
So, and more surprises coming your way. But make sure that you're telling everybody how important it is to vote locally. There's a lot of very important races that are going to be happening across our local cities that need your attention. As much as this state is blue, when it comes to presidential race, there's going to be very important congressional races, state races, county, and your city council. So go and find out who is running in your area, do your research, and do your civic duty. Dang it.
Indeed. And I mean, it's a good point. Even though if you don't care who the president is, or you hate the idea that you have to vote for either of them, the lesser of two rapists, basically. I mean, vote local, though. You don't have to vote for either of them. I mean, mainly if you're in California, I'd say that. But don't let it get you too down. There's still a lot of important things you could influence here. So don't give that up. It's my message of hope.
Man, that is hopeful.
Yeah.
As it is dire.
Yeah, it's a little mix.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody that tuned in for the first time. Please like and follow our page. Share this video on your wall. Share it with friends, especially if you live in Thai's ward. And find out who she is and the things that she believes and things that she believes passionately about bringing to the city council in Santana. So yeah, it's a lot. The council could change drastically. And so, we'll
no more Polito.
How it plays out. Yeah. And, exactly. After 27 years, a new mayor will be determined. And so there's a lot of tone setting that could change. So, yeah. We'll see how that works itself out. I want to thank audio video engineer Edgar Silva for being an awesome audio video engineer. Iron Lion Media Studios. Send us a message if you want to find out how to get your own podcast recorded and other recording opportunities. So without further ado, from Dylan Thompson and Jose Gloria and all of us in It's Happening family, we are signing.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Wow.
No es libertad, lo que tú vives es vulgar. Ser un esclavo sin descansar mientras que el burgués se aprovecha de tus labores. Hay que luchar para vencer este sistema capital. Hay que leer